Okay, in this video here, we're going to be looking at how we actually do math with sig figs. So there is rules for different mathematical operations. So we pair up adding and subtracting and then multiplying and dividing. So first one we're going to look at is the rule for multiplication and division. So you're going to do your problem like normal. Okay, so whatever your problem is, you calculate it the same. All right, so it's 2.345 times zero point 0.2. You do 2.345 times zero point 0.2, and you get your answer. It's just the answer that you actually report depends upon this rule. So the number of sig figs when it comes to multiplication and division, your number of sig figs in your final answer is the same number as the sig figs that is the least amount of sig figs. Okay, so the number of sig figs in your final answer is the same as the fewest sig figs in your problem. So let me rephrase this. Okay, or not rephrase it. Let me show you this. So 6.38 times 2.0. Okay, so how many sig figs does 6.38 have? Well, it has a decimal, so we start counting from the left. So it's 1, 2, 3. So this one has 3 sig figs. 2.0, so it's got a decimal. We start counting from the left. 1, 2, so this one has 2 sig figs. Okay, so we're going to do the math the same. And I wish it would have done that. So when we do the math, we do get 12.76. That's what the calculator says. However, what you report, because you can only do a certain number of sig figs, what you report, it's the equals the number of the least sig figs used in the calculation. Okay, the rest of this, least precise measurement, that just means the least number of sig figs. So whichever one has, so whatever the fewest sig figs are. So this one has 3 sig figs, this one has 2 sig figs. So our final answer, so this is the answer the calculator gave us. Okay, so this is the calculator answer. And like I said, you have to excuse my handwriting. So this is the calculator answer, but the actual answer can only have 2 sig figs. So 12.76, so this is the first sig fig, second sig fig, but there's a 7 after it, so that makes this round up. So that's how we get 13. So that's the actual answer. Okay, so here's some practice. So 3.24 times 7.0. Like I said, you do the calculation the same. This is what the calculator says. But what should our actual answer be? Well, 3.24, so 1, 2, 3, it's got a decimal. So that's 3 sig figs. 7.0, that's 2 sig figs. Well, our fewest number of sig figs is 2. So our final answer can only have 2 sig figs. So 1, 2. The number after that last one is a 6, so it rounds it up. So that's going to be 23. Okay. 100.0 grams divided by 23.7. This one has 4 sig figs because there's a decimal, so you start counting from the left. This one has 3 sig figs because there's a decimal, you start counting from the left. So this is what the calculator says. Big long answer. You don't want to write all that. So what our total answer needs to have 3 sig figs. So 1, 2, 3. The number after that is greater than 5, so it rounds that number up. So 4.22. Okay. All right. How many sig figs is this answer going to have? So that's what you're answering. How many sig figs will this answer have? So 0.02. There is a decimal. We start counting the first non-zero digit, so this only has 1 sig fig. 2.371, that one has 4 sig figs. This is what the calculator says. We can only have 1 sig fig in our answer because that's the fewest number of sig figs in our problem. So here's our first sig fig right here. So we can only have 1. That number is greater than 5, so it rounds it up. So 0.05. Okay. How about this one? 710 has no decimal, so we start counting from the right. Here's our first non-zero, so 1, 2. This one has a decimal, so we start counting from the left. First non-zero is a 3, so 1, 2. So these both have 2 sig figs, which this is our answer, which means our answer can only have 2 sig figs. So 1, 2. Here's my second sig fig. So I need to round this up based on what's on here. So this 3, the 6 makes that round up. So that's going to become 240. Okay. So that is only 3 sig figs. All right. You don't just put, it's not just 24. This is not the same thing. All right. So we know it's 2 sig figs, right? So it's 2 sig figs. So 1, 2. You're like, okay, we'll round that up to 24. I'm done. Would you rather get paid $24 or $240? Okay, it's what you actually need. So this 24 is not the same as 236. All right, the reason why we tack the 0 on is because this is hundreds, 236, 236 okay? So that 0 does not change it because remember, this doesn't become a sig fig. This number has no decimal, so we start counting from the right-hand side, so 1, 2. So that has 2 sig figs as well. Okay, 1818.2, that one has 5. 3.23 has 3. Here's where our actual answer is. We can only have 3 sig figs. 1, 2, 3. This number here is less than 5, so that stays 587, and we just change everything else to a 0. Because remember, that 0 does not change it. This is still only 3 sig figs. Okay, 1.030, that has 4. 2.87 has 3. Do the regular math. We only need 3 decimals, so 2.956. That makes that round up. So 2.96. Okay. That was that was multiplying and dividing. The next one we'll look at is we'll look at how to do adding and subtracting. Sorry, let's go a little ahead. Okay.